Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, at the Autodrom Most. We are getting ready for another round, actually the penultimate round of the 2023 Eastern European TCR, and we are racing here at Most. We've already done 4 rounds in this championship, and that means that the 6 calendar long season is now getting towards its end. So that also means that every single point, I mean, it counts all season, but now it probably matters more than usual, because already here in Most, we might actually crown the new Eastern European TCR champion. Maťo Homola is the championship leader, but he is definitely not going to have it easy today, because he's starting all the way over there in P5. That is a good starting position anyway, but crucially, he's got his main championship rival, David Kajaya, on the front row. But before we get to him, we have got the story of the weekend, and that is the always returning king of Autodrom Most, Petr Fulín, local driver, his home race, his home circuit, and we might just sneak a short word with Petr right before the race starts, if we may. Okay, Petr wants to focus, but he's back with Aditis Racing. He's back with the new car. It's the Audi RS3 LMS, and it's been a year since he raced the last time. He was in his own racing team in the Cupra Leon, and he won both races of the weekend, and now he's returning back. And guess what? He just put it on pole position yet again. He's even beaten this man, David Kajaya. David Kajaya, who's now fighting for the Eastern European Championship victory with Maťo Homola. David, we've spoken a little earlier on today, and you have lost the pole position fight by 1/10 of a second, but you revealed to me that you made a little mistake in quali. Maybe it could have been the other way around, but what can you make in this race?
Yeah, you know, race for sure will be difficult because we have many local heroes here. Fulín is too fast because it is his local, it is home track. It depends how I will manage the start, and let's see then.
Your Honda usually makes good starts, but it's also starting to drizzle, and this race has already been claimed as wet. It's still dry, but it might turn wet. So what would be your preference?
Yeah, it would be really tricky to drive with slick tires on the wet, but let's see. Everyone is in the same condition, and I hope everything will be okay.
Thank you so much, and best of luck for the race. It's getting wet, maybe. It's looming in the air, and I already feel a little drizzle, so this should be maybe a little even more entertaining and more exciting than usual. Let's get going, let's get racing. And so we are away from the starting grid for the first race of the weekend in the Eastern European TCR. Cars are already on their formation lap. 4.2 kilometers, that's Autodrom Most. And this is the first crucial place of the track. And that is, of course, the chicane, where it all happens, where drives that are maybe overly eager or overly optimistic or overly opportunistic might actually either win it all, but also lose it all. And the man who's carrying the weight, all of the weight in his shoulders today is Petr Fulin, returning back to the field. He's already done quite a lot of races, of course, here. This is his home track. He's not at home anywhere more than here in Most. And a couple of years back, he was racing here in the World Touring Car Cup. And he was sat on pole position back then again in the mix of the world-class competition. Last year, he joined us for the season finale of the Eastern European TCR. And guess what? He simply won both of the races, just as we watched the championship fight between Bartosz Groszek and Petr Semerat unfold. It was then Bartosz Groszek victorious in the Audi RS3, prepared by the Aditis Racing team. And we are used to this from Formula One, aren't we? That after the summer break, quite a lot of things change. And we were in quite a surprise for this round of the Eastern European TCR as well, because we found Petr Fulin in the Aditis Racing's RS3 Audi. He got the opportunity, replacing Sebastian Steibl, who unfortunately will not be able to complete the rest of the season. And we've also lost Tobias Poschig, who also can't compete anymore. But we have got Petr Fulin joining Aditis Racing for this round, alongside his own team that is represented by his son, Petr Fulin Jr., and also Karol Wittke. We have got the drivers at the end of the formation lap. Let's simply see the starting grid for race number 1. I've already mentioned Petr Fulin winning the qualifying. It was actually a very closely contested qualifying. We had the first 5 drivers, the top 5, in between the within half a second. That's what I wanted to say, and that was simply incredibly close. Also behind them, unbelievable stuff, because the difference between 6th place Giacomo Germandi and 7th place Petr Fulin Jr. 1,000th of a second. But Petr Fulin Senior, so to say, on pole. Alongside him, David Kajaya, row number 2. Petr Čížek, his best qualifying at his home track. He is from Most. This is his home, and he performed so well in the qualifying earlier on today. So he actually lines up on the second row of the grid, in between the 2 Mertel Motorsport Hondas. Alongside him, the German driver René Kircher. Behind them, championship leader Matej Homola. He can pack it all here if he extends his lead to at least 55 points. But he is behind his main championship rival. Alongside him, Giacomo Germandi. Behind them, Petr Fulin Jr., Adam Kout, Karlo Čepielt, Ivars Valers, Žarko Kněgo, Sebastian Kolakovský, Radim Adámek, Karol Wittke, Víc Mejkal, and Antonio Citera. The red lights are on now. And away we go. We are racing here at Most, and there is a stalled car. That's Karlo Čepiel, not really getting away from the grid, but everybody avoided him, and it is Petr Fulin immediately switching to the inside line. But look at Petr Čížek go on his home track. Petr Čížek takes the lead into the first chicane. What a stuff from Petr Čížek, but then Petr Fulin slips through and back into the lead of the race in the second part of the chicane. What a terrific start from Petr Čížek, and he's outpaced both Hondas to be now P2 in the opening meters of this race, and he's demoting David Kajaya down to 3rd, and we have got Matej Homola up to 4th immediately. This is the championship fight on our hands now, and we have got David Kajaya making a terrible mistake in the second sector. He's through the gravel and he's losing it all. He's falling down places, and he's now seeing his championship chances slip away from him. He's going to have and face an uphill struggle in the remainder of this race. What an opening to this race this is. David Kajaya dropping all the way down the order within the top 10. Anyway, we have got Petr Fulin leading the race from Petr Čížek. They were
team boss and driver last year, but they split ways for 2023, and now they are amazingly fighting it right out on the track for the race victory. It is Petr Fulin leading from Petr Cížek, and then we have got should be Maťo Homola already up in P3. There we go at the end of the opening lap of the race, Fulin leading from Petr Cížek and also Maťo Homola. What an opening lap this was! And Petr Fulin immediately kicking some dust up in the air to make it a little bit more difficult for the following drivers. Petr Cížek following him in second, from Maťo Homola in third. René Kircher in the end and in the mix of things actually remained in P4. Behind him is Giacomo Germandi. Adam Colt up to 6. Petr Fulin Jr. staying in 7th from David Kajai, who dropped all the way down into 8th after his mistake on the opening lap. That was an unfortunate and uncalled for mistake that he made, and that might prove extremely costly on this weekend where Maťo Homola can already snatch the title. Ivar Svalers, beautiful stuff from him as well. He's remaining in the top 10 and he's P9 from Sebastian Kolakowski, who jumped Žarko Kněgo at the start of the race. Karol Wittke, he had a crash earlier on this weekend in the opening practice. He spun and actually hit the barrier sideways. Quite a heavy impact that was, and that damaged his car beyond repair. Fortunately enough, his team is also fielding the third car here for the weekend, but not for the entire weekend, basically just for the testing. And he's been able to actually jump into that green liveried car now for the races. So Karol Wittke still together with us for the remainder of the weekend. But it is Petr Fulin leading the way from Petr Cížek, who is not really now letting him away. We are completing lap number 2 of this race. That's already exciting enough, but it can still get exciting way more. 1 second between Fulin and Cížek, and it's the fastest lap from Petr Fulin, 1:40.0. Homola third, Kircher fourth, Germandi P5, Adam Colt P6. Behind him, David Kajaya, who's already made short work of Petr Fulin Jr., and he's now climbing up the order. There is René Kircher, his teammate, in the other Honda. Originally fielded and developed by Team Engstler, sold to Mertel Motorsport for the Eastern European TCR campaign. And the Hondas have been doing rather well. They're still in the fight for the championship glory. There is David Kajaya, who's already ahead of Petr Fulin Jr. up in 7th, but he's got an incredible gap ahead, 3 seconds to Adam Colt in P6. So further positions are still at hand, but he's gonna have to catch up with the rest of the pack first. Adam Colt was a little bit unlucky in qualifying. He had an incident with Petr Fulin here in this place. Actually, you might see the tracks going through the gravel. That's what Adam Colt did earlier on today in quali. He was on his hot lap and had to actually avoid the other car and drop it to the gravel. And there is another variable in the equation, actually. Let's not forget about that, because we saw and felt slight drops of rain right at the start. It's still not raining, but it very well might be in just a couple of minutes. We don't know what the clouds are going to do. We've been watching the radar, but still, you know, we can't really make too much sense out of that. It was actually raining overnight, then it's been dry ever since the day started, but the risk of rain has been looming over the circuit all through the day so far, and the risk is still there, it's still present. Fully leading the way from Cížek, Homola third, Kircher fourth, Germandi in P5 from Colt, and David Kajaya seems to have dropped back to 8th now. Petr Fulin Jr. regaining 7th. So Kajaya, not only that there's a lot of work for him to actually catch up with the rest of the pack, but it's not really a given for him. Ooh, and bit of dust there kicked up in the air in the runoff area. One of the drivers was actually wide. Yeah, but David Kajaya, instead of being able to focus on catching up with the leaders, he's been overtaken by Fulin Jr. again, and now they're trailing the rest of the pack by more than 7 seconds now. So realistically for Kajaya, who was starting from the front row of the grid, we had him on the interview, right before the race. It's really not been unraveling very well. This is Jarko Kniego in the black and white liveried Hyundai Elantra, trying to fight it out together with Carlo Cepiel. That's the fight for B9. And Cepiel is through on Kniego. Jarko Kniego, he did his first race in the Elantra earlier on this season at the Slovakia ring, so that's the previous round of the championship. Since then he's been working hard to improve. He's also had an extra race for himself, extra experience with the car when he contested the Croatian round of the Croatian TCR championship, which he won. And now he's back in the Eastern European TCR. Actually put that experience, put that extra skill now to use here at Most. And is now, no, this is David Kajaya defending hard from Cepiel, and something's not quite right with that Honda. It doesn't sound very good. It actually sounds quite poorly. What is going on with Kajaya? He must be having some sort of trouble, maybe after that off-track excursion. Maybe something broke or was damaged a little bit, and that Honda is definitely out of shape. So again, he was a little wider than he needed to be. The splitter is hanging off his car, and that's definitely making the aerodynamic of his car working much worse than it should be. There is simply no grip and no downforce at the front, so his car is understeering like crazy in all the corners, and that's now handed B8 to Carlo Cepiel, teammate of Matteo Homola, and this is a terrible, terrible development for David Kajaya. His splitter is hanging off, and he'll be lucky enough already to actually finish the race, but he also may be shown the black and orange flag and be forced back to pits. And you hear the noise, the rattling noise, as the hanging off splitter is rubbing against the tarmac and against the curbs. Now Jarko Kniego lining up as the next guy for a move. It must be so extremely difficult through this right-hander, which is so fast and so demanding. And with the semi-detached splitter, the car is simply not turning in. It's not even not properly braking. And you'll be amazed how big the effect is when your splitter is not where it should be. Little bit of dust in the face of Giacomo Germandi from René Kircher. Fulin leading already by over 2 seconds, but Petr Cížek, seriously good home race and a home event for him up until now. And he's been running a very strong race in P2. There is Ivars Valers lining up for a move on Sebastian Kolakowski, and through the Lithuanian goes. There is Germandi. Has he now dealt with Adam Coate? No, he's not. And it's actually Adam Coate attacking Giacomo Germandi. But Germandi, we know he's the guy with the sharp elbows, and you need to be extra careful. He's not giving up positions so easily. I see that right, there is a little piece of bodywork hanging off Germandi's car on the left-hand side. Wonderful camera view there. And there is already the fight. And Coat is through. Adam Coat has now passed Germandi, who's really picked up damage. And there's a bit of bodywork hanging off his car. And it seems to be rubbing against the tire, at least in the right-hand corners, when the front left is loaded. And that seems to be causing Germandi extra trouble. His car understeering its way through the couple of corners, and look at that, that's even a piece of bumper actually hanging off and rubbing against the ground. So this is not a good development for the Italian. That little piece of bodywork flipping around. And it's just making his life ever harder. Breaking into the opening chicane. He's still trying to sort of hang together with both of the, it seems like both of the vertical bits of bodywork, the veins flapping around on that Audi. It's still Germandi holding together with Coat in the fight for fifth. We have got an information that the Express Auto Racing team representatives are now summoned to the stewards. So that's the team of Petr Cížek and Vícmejkal. Something doesn't seem to be quite right. And of course there's also an investigation. There is an investigation actually of an incident between Karol Wittke and Antonio Citera. We did not see that one, but something happened between the two. And also another incident that happened between cars 55 and 121, that was Sebastian Kolakowski and Ivars Valers, also under investigation by the race stewards. But none of that really concerns the fight for, well, the two incidents do not concern the fight for the race lead, but whatever it is that the stewards want to see Express Auto Racing's representatives for might potentially be endangering that beautiful second place of the homeboy Petr Cížek. Let's just say homeboy, I should rather say home man, really. But he is directly from Most. This is basically his living room. This is also where it all started, where it all happened for him. And he's been enjoying a home event, just like his teammate Vícmejkal. He's actually from Litvinov, so not directly from Most, but really from nearby. So lots of family members, lots of friends, sponsors and supporters joining the event for the Express Auto Racing's team. And they're making it big this time around. And Petr Cížek putting a cherry on top of the cake with that rocket start from third to first into the first chicane. He was extremely late on the brakes. He just went opportunistic. Seriously, hats off to him. Absolutely all sympathies with that maneuver, but it was actually a little bit too much, and he outbraked himself a little bit and actually still allowed Petr Furin back in the race lead that Petr has not lost ever since then. Also for Petr, if you just examine his racing line, not leaving an inch anywhere I actually went watching trackside yesterday during practices, and you just really do notice through the first chicane who knows this track and who's sort of trying to survive through the opening couple of corners. And definitely Petr Fulin absolutely on it. But also Petr Cížek seriously choosing a beautiful line through the first chicane. That was my experience watching trackside yesterday, and he then confirmed that view with the result in today's qualifying earlier on. Further investigation, cars 68 and 3, that's Adam Colt and Giacomo Germandi. Did not really see an incident as such in the first corner, but ooh, and look at that, Adam Colt in serious trouble. I actually had the suspicion that not everything is well in his world as well. And Germandi is through the first chicane. He went straight ahead through the gravel. He completely missed the braking point there. And again, those pieces of bodywork are now rubbing against the tires and probably causing puncture, or potentially causing puncture. Similar could be said about Adam Colt. We saw a huge plume of smoke pouring off the front right tire of that Hyundai Elantra. And Adam Colt might be in trouble very soon indeed. At the head of the race, nothing has changed. Petr Fulin leading by nearly 3 seconds from Petr Cížek, and he has been safe in P2. With a second to spare to third place, Maťo Homola. Maťo Homola doesn't actually need to risk, so doesn't make much sense for him to go and try to be overly aggressive and attack towards the front. B3 is very good for him already. Of course, every other position, every further position for him would be a benefit, but his main championship rival, David Kajaya, down in 9th, so will not score very strongly today. And this is exactly the result that Maťo Homola needs. He's not going to snatch the championship today, but tomorrow he might very well do. Six minutes left on the clock. Fulin in the lead from Cížek, Homola third, Kircher fourth, Adam Colt fifth. Petr Fulin Jr. has now passed Giacomo Germandi for sixth. We've got Germandi in seventh from Carlo Cepiel, David Kajaya P9, Žarko Kniego in P10. Of course, for the race 2, we will be reversing a certain number of positions to determine the order for the starting grid of tomorrow's race. And of course, whoever will come out as the race winner today will then have a draw, and will pick a number out of a hat to determine a number between 6 and 10 to actually decide how many positions we are going to reverse for tomorrow's race. Behind the top 10 we have got Sebastian Kolakowski, that's the white Honda we're now watching. Defending from Ivar Svalers, Antonio Citera in 13th. Behind them Karol Wittke, Vít Smejkal and Radim Adamek, who's now actually set his personal best of the race, and he's catching up with Smejkal in front. 5 minutes left to go. Still no signs of any meaningful rain. We just had little drops on the grid, but that has not developed into anything serious just yet. So the race has been proclaimed as wet, simply to give the teams and the drivers the chance to put on wets if they need. But of course, slick tire is the tire of choice. And there's a penalty. Sebastian Kolakowski, car number 55, will get a 10-second penalty for forcing another driver off the track. That's what probably happened between him and Kniego earlier on. But Kniego is ahead anyway, and he is now the one following the front row starting David Kajaya. And the race simply went from 10 to 5 or 9 to 6 or hero to zero, basically, so to say. So very, very unfortunate race here in Most for David Kajaya. He was 3 places up ahead of his main championship rival, whom he actually needs to catch up with. But that is simply not happening today. 3.5 minutes left on the clock. Homola third, still 1 second behind Petr Cížek. Not really needing much more than that, realistically. Still, this hands him a good portion of points. Well, it's a good haul of points with 15 for third. And across the line we go again with René Kircher following in fourth. That's Ivars Valers. He's already dealt with Kolakovsky, who is now in the clutches of the other Honda. The red and white livery Honda, raced by Antonio Citera. Behind him, Karol Wittke, Witzmeikal, Radim Adamek. Ooh, Kolakovsky goes straight on, straight ahead. Ooh, and not only him, also Smeikal missed the braking point completely and has to navigate his way through the tires, and that allows Radim Adamek through. Karol Wittke in that green and grey full-in racing Cupra. Now following the 2 Hondas. Citera making a move on Kolakovsky. That was very close indeed, and even Karol Wittke is through. So Wittke's teammate Andreas Collert handing him the car for the rest of the weekend, as already mentioned, after the shunt that Wittke unfortunately gave against the barrier. Half a minute left on the clock, so we may as well find ourselves on the final tour of the race. So we should get back to the leader, Petr Fulín. A name so firmly connected to Autodrom Most, Petr Fulín. He raced here 2 years back. I mean, he's raced here so many times in Skoda Octavia Cup, and also, for example, 2 years back in the World Touring Car race. There he goes. Petr Fulín, just like last year with the Cupra. He's now in the hands of another team and behind the wheel of another car. But that makes no difference to his performance and to his result. Petr Fulín dominant at Most yet again. He started the season in his own team at Oschersleben with 2nd and 5th, but he is now rising to the top again. Petr Fulín victorious at Most. Petr Cížek, rocket start to begin the race with. He was even reaching for the race lead, which then slipped away from him, but still, what a race. Petr Cížek waiting for that first Eastern European TCR victory of his own. He's already been 2nd, but the new season of 2023 has not really been that nice to him. Petr Cížek coming to Most in 12th in the standings. Yes, he is one of the very few drivers that have been in points in every single race. The only other drivers being actually the championship leaders, Matěj Homola and David Kajaya, and Petr Čížek extending that record with another race in the points. But so far, his best were a couple of 6th places in Hungary earlier on, and now he's at home, he's in his own living room, and he's now climbing to the podium. P2 for Petr Čížek. What a qualifying, what a race for the home hero. And we have got Matěj Homola, the championship leader, making a crucial step in his championship fight. He was starting 3 positions behind his main rival David Kajaya, but Kajaya saw his race fall into pieces immediately as it began. He was trying to hold on for positions, then he went off the track, dropped to 8th, and he initially tried to actually make up places, but all was not well with his car, and then he's lost yet more ground and comes home across the line in 9th place, having just defended from Žarko Kněgo. So a very unfortunate race indeed for David Kajaya, and this is a big dent for his championship hopes. He still has 3 more races to do it, but if tomorrow's race doesn't go to the plan, then it might actually be over for his championship chances. That will very much also depend on the number that will get drawn by today's race winner Petr Fulín, and will decide somewhere between 6 and 10 places that will get reversed for the starting grid of race 2 that is coming up tomorrow. Further results of, or let's say positions in today's race beyond the podium: René Kircher in a sort of quiet 4th. Adam Coate made his way all the way up to P5. Petr Fulín Jr., a nice race and 6th place finish. Giacomo Germandi in 7th. From Carlo Cepiel, David Kajaya 9th, Žarko Kněgo 10th. Behind him, Ivar Svalers, Tonio Citera, Karol Wittke, Sebastian Kolakovsky, Radim Adamek and Vít Smejkal. We have got a couple of investigations going on, so these are still unofficial results. There could still be changes. We've already informed you about the team members of Express Auto Racing being summoned to the race steward, so we'll see what comes out of that. But for now, we know that it is yet another dominant performance here in Most from Petr Fulín. Petr Čížek in 2nd and Matěj Homola in 3rd. What a symbolic, seriously a symbolic podium here. Petr Čížek was racing in the team of Petr Fulín up until last season. Then they split ways, and Petr Čížek is now in another team of his friend Vít Smejkal. Petr Fulín now himself joining another than his own team. It's Aditis Racing, and winning the race for them. And Matěj Homola, he's raced against Petr Fulín so many times already, and he lost the 2013 European Touring Car Championship title to Petr Fulín, actually. He was also again 2nd in the following season in 2014. That, of course, was already in a different category. But Matěj Homola, even though he's one of the most experienced races that you'll find in these neck of the woods in touring car racing, he's still yet to win a championship title, but he has now made a very important step towards one. So if the race that is happening tomorrow, we're still continuing on with the rest of the program, just as you've watched the race highlights. And coming up next, after a short break, is the first race of the Central European Formula 4. We will be back for that. Make sure that you are back as well. But until then, it is a very warm goodbye.